So without further ado, I'll be starting to talk about Black Swan and the White Elephant, science fiction and visual languages in the age of big data. So if you allow me, I'm going to sit down while I give the presentation so I can control the slides. Well, you may wonder why this title. Because my assigned homework is to talk about science fiction in the age of big data. As you all know, big data these days is everywhere. And it's, if you write a proposal, you better try to squeeze in these two words, big data, so you can try to get funding. So in Chinese, we say, this is the 显学, 现在大家都在讲大数据。可是有时候你可能会觉得奇怪，是不是大数据真的那么有用？ We have our doubts whether big data is really that useful. Do you have any doubts? So in fact, today I'm going to raise some doubts and then use one of my most popular topic, our president, Mr. Trump, as an example to illustrate the concept, and then talk about how we can address some of the issues. Okay, so I'll be starting with the theory of the Black Swan, which is the 黑天鹅. Black Swan is the 黑天鹅, and then talk about the White Elephant, and talk about why there are limitations to data analysis and data mining. Since after all, I know a lot of you are from the School of Creative Media, so you have learned both use computer algorithms and data in order to do visual presentations. So let's discuss the relationship between the two. So after we discuss the pitfalls of big data, we'll talk about ways to address it using visual languages. Visual languages in Chinese is called 视觉语言, 视觉语言. In fact, we have a lot of visual techniques. This includes 藏宝图, the map, 图示, the icon, 关系网, relations, and finally science fiction scenarios. So the second half of the talk will be a little bit more closer to my discipline, namely computer science and communication, but I try to make it as palatable as possible. Okay, let's get started. What is a black swan? 什么是黑天鹅? We all know what is a white swan, 白天鹅. In fact, for a long, long time, people don't know there is actually black swan. 我们看到的天鹅都是很美丽的白天鹅，很纯洁的美的象征从前呢，西方人根本不知道有黑天鹅，从前中国人也不知道有黑天鹅So we always thought until the early 18th century, there's only white swan. Until some explorers went to Australia and they discovered another kind of bird. They don't know what it is. After research and finally they are certain it's actually a swan, but a black swan. 这黑天鹅是一直到有探险家到了澳洲才发现真的世界上还有黑天鹅所以这就很有趣In fact, the languages change all the time. That's one thing we have to know about languages. It's not stationary. So in the slang, in the idiomatic expression, black swan used to refer to something that is impossible or highly improbable. 你本来黑天鹅是没有的嘛，所以这 black swan 是根本是代表一个不存在的事情。But after the black swan was discovered, we know, as a matter of fact, some swans are actually black. So that leads to the second meaning of black swan. It's something that's highly improbable, but actually happened. 所以黑天鹅的确变成说是有的事情是很不可能发生，可是居然发生了，这就变成一个黑天鹅啊。到现在呢，黑天鹅又增加了一层的意思啊。Now the use of the language evolved again. These days, when we talk about the black swan, it's something that's highly improbable, but it happened. And afterwards, when people analyze it, they conclude that actually it's bound to happen. It's deterministic. It's bound to happen. It should be predictable, but the expert failed to predict it. Okay, so in order to give an example, I turn to my favorite example of President Trump. 2 years ago, nobody in America is the right mind, I must say, believed that Trump will actually be elected to be the president, especially intellectuals. Nobody believed it until the very last minute until election night. And I was watching TV all the time and looking at the TV anchor, they all turned black, not black, they turned white because of this improbable, highly improbable event. And it leads to the present state, and we don't all know what the present state is. We have a Chang as the president and making a lot of just totally crazy decisions. But this lecture is not about to criticize Trump, although I would like to. Afterwards, after he was elected, people made analysis to see why Trump can be elected president. You know, the American election system is that we go by electors. So if somebody win the popular vote of a single state, he will get all the electors from that state. So the total popular vote, actually, he lagged behind Clinton. But if you look at some critical states, here are a few of them, I wish you can see them. So the first one is Florida, and then Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and then the national total. Looking at a critical state like Florida, Trump actually lagged behind almost all the time until the final 2 weeks. At the last minute, there was a surge. There was a change of opinion among the voters. It's not very big. The total effect is only 2%. But unfortunately, the difference between the vote for Trump and the vote for Clinton is only 1.5%. So with this last surge, Trump carried the state of Florida. 就是他们两个票数很接近，可是那些统计学家，我们做民调我不知道你们香港人相不相信民调的我从台湾来了，台湾人是不相信民调的可是这个美国人是很相信民调，他们相信统计一直都没有发现川普领先，一直到最后2个星期，有很多选民出来了，他们 switch 到 Trump 这边，很少，可是因为就只差这一点点，就搬过来了。So in the post analysis, you can see that statistically, Trump actually won. But at first, nobody knows. So Trump is a black swan. Trump 是一个标准的黑天鹅啊，就是他本来不会赢，后来赢了，而他的关系很大。但事后呢，有很多人就事后有先见之明，认为他一定是会赢的。那我自己的理论呢是这个川普啊，大家看不看金庸的小说的？一定都看啊。金庸小说的一个很重要的人物是谁呢？韦小宝啊。韦小宝不懂武功，这他可以击败天下的英雄。为什么？他从来不按牌理出牌啊。川普就是这样的一个人物啊。Yeah, I cannot translate all this into English, okay? Because you have to read the martial art novels of Jin Yong, who is a very famous writer. In fact, he recently passed away. So I told City University I'd like to dedicate this lecture to him. Because in my mind, 科幻小说、武侠小说同出一源了，其实它都是 it's the same origin of martial art, kung fu novels and science fiction. So Trump is improbable because he is abnormal. He's not a normal kind of politician. He acts differently. And in fact, what he pushed is a kind of barbaric capitalism, the capitalism in the worst form. But let's switch back to the theory. The phenomenon of black swan was first analyzed by a scientist. His name is Taleb. In science, as well as in arts, different people actually can have different styles. So don't believe it that science is totally neutral. Different kind of scientists may have different conclusions. Okay. Taleb happened to be from Lebanon. 这个塔利吧，他是从黎巴嫩来的，所以他不属于美国的主流的科学家啊。主流的科学家都相信这个统计学，相信这个大数据啊。Taleb 不一样啊。So Mr. Taleb, his viewpoint and his style is very different from the mainstream scientists who in America believe in scientific evidence, believe in big data, believe in statistics. What Taleb was trying to show is that the black swan theory is an event with three attributes. First, it is an outline. It lies outside the rim of regular expectations. Second, it has tremendous impact. And thirdly, afterwards, it seems to be predictable. Like I mentioned, nobody predicts Trump can win the election before the election, but afterwards, everybody says that it's inevitable he will win. 这个我们中国话叫做事后诸葛啊。你做事后诸葛是很容易的，可是你事前并不是这么样的晓得啊。This is the black swan theory. So this is a very interesting book. In fact, it became a bestseller in the New York Times bestseller list a few years ago because it presents a different alternative explanation of the theory of black swan. And in fact, black swan always occur in groups. So after Trump's election, you can see a lot of bad things happening. And that's actually a swarm of black swan. 不过这个呢，我要说一句，是我们的老祖宗啊，也都知道啊。我们有一句话，福无双至，祸不单行啊。This is actually from the experience of our ancestors, the Chinese knows a long time ago. It is very rare for the good things to happen twice. But if you have a bad luck, it will come again and again to hit you. But I should mention that the Jewish people had the same observation. Both are ancient Greeks, so both have been through all of these. Just in passing to mention that there's also a black horse, right? Sometimes we refer to something that's occurred accidentally as a black horse, 黑马。我们说这个人他本来考试成绩很坏，突然考好了，叫一匹黑马啊。But the black horse difference is that you cannot say it's predictable. If someone is a black horse, win a lottery, he most likely will not win again. Okay, now let's talk about the other side, which is called the white elephant, 白大象啊，白大象的现象。那什么是白大象呢？ What is the white elephant? White elephant is a possession which its owner cannot dispose of, but the cost, especially that of maintenance, is out of proportion to its usefulness. 比如说你有一辆宝马很好的车子啊，可是很老了，那车子性能也不大好，常常花很多钱修理，你早就应该把它丢掉了，可是呢，你舍不得。这个什么呢？英文叫做 white elephant 啊 ，white elephant， 这是一只白大象啊。可是我们中文也有话啊，所谓这个 white elephant 的话，in Chinese we don't call it a white elephant 啊 ，we say it's a 鸡肋啊。The part of the chicken, the bone, is tasteless, but you still try to keep it. 食之无味啊，弃之可惜啊，食之无味，弃之可惜。Some scholars say that the Chinese culture is always oriented toward eating. We cannot, especially you Cantonese people, we cannot. This is a compliment, actually. Yeah. I enjoy all the food I got here in the last 2 days. Yeah, very good. Especially the director movie just bring us to some very good restaurant. Excellent. In America or in Beijing or in Taiwan, no comparison to Hong Kong. Yeah. Okay. So we call it 食之无味，弃之可惜. But the English expression is probably more vivid. So if you see a white elephant, this means that you have something that's big, but you cannot get rid of it. And the related term includes the elephant in the room. There's always something you don't want to mention. Everybody knows it's there. You just don't want to talk about it. 所以房间里的大象就是每个人都知道的一个很尴尬的情况，可是呢又不好说破。这就是一个房间里的大象。然后最后还有这个粉红象 （pink elephant）。That's an imaginary creature seen by the people who drunk. Okay, I talk about the black swan, I talk about white elephants. The relevance of these is that it actually shows the limitations of data analysis. Dr. Taleb, what his contribution is that he promote this theory of the black swan, and he talked about a lot of fake profit. They really cannot predict, and they rely on statistics, statistical analysis to predict, and they fail. But afterwards, they try to justify and say that it is inevitable. So he cautioned us against the folly of such approaches. In fact, we always see that in practice, especially in a lot of bureaucratic institutions. So a lot of bureaucratic institutions, they collect a lot of data. Actually, they cannot make full use of it, but since it's collected, you cannot get rid of it. So they still try to go through the motion, and especially these days, since everybody talk about big data, people would believe it's useful, but those who knows, they cannot say that it's useless, and this is the white elephant phenomenon. So we have the phenomenon of this emperor, not without clothes these days. It's emperor and his data. So the emperor's clothes is actually the data and the truth. So we believe that they have the truth by just doing the data analysis, by just invoking big data. Actually, he's the emperor without the clothes. So how do we overcome that? That's the second half of my talk. Instead of blindly applying statistical analysis to big data, we need to try to think about systems that would utilize human wisdom together with data analysis. 就是用人跟机器来合作来解决问题。这是什么呢？这就是视觉语言的贡献 ，visual languages. So in the limited time, I will just talk about some major characteristics of visual languages, including the map, the icons, relations, and finally, science fiction scenarios. Okay. First, the maps. You all have used maps, especially these day and age. You all have what? Personal phones. You have GPS, so you use the map all the time to find your way. So map, most important thing, it helps you find the way. Days before maps, we may not have a computer to help us search for things. But certainly the idea of searching is a key motivation for human being. Now this is a famous photograph showing these two kids, one boy, one girl. They walk away from darkness toward brightness. This is a fundamental theme of many movies, novels, science fictions. 就人就有这种本能啊，我们希望从黑暗的地方出走到光明的地方。可是呢，出走之后呢，你又会想回到这个你的黑暗的地方啊。这是另外一张照片啊。This is another photo showing the contrast between the dark, which is the refuge, and the brightness, which is prospect. This concept, refuge and prospect, was used by Professor Hildebrand, who is with the University of Seattle, University of Washington, Seattle. So he's actually promoting his theory of aesthetics applied to architecture. But as you may see, a lot of these different disciplines are coming together in recent years. So the searching is a fundamental human motive, and maps can help us to do the search. But you know, there are many different kinds of maps. Map is not as simple as you first see. I skipped some because I don't want to have lecture to be too long. So first of all, map is purposeful. 这个地图啊是有目的性的。你看了这个地图，世界地图，它的中心在哪里呢？在欧洲啊。So this map, the center of the world is in Europe. That's part of what the map creator tried to convey. We can change the center. Now it's Asia-centric. So map is not totally not neutral. It can be purposeful, and it can show the creator where he is located. And map can be abstract. We all used road maps before. help us to find a way. You can switch the ground truth to the actual satellite map, but maybe less helpful. And map can be, above all, imaginary. So this is the map of Canada from the viewpoint of the explorer. So the dark part is the unknown region, and the white part is the known region. But if you are Eskimo, your viewpoint will be different, right? Yeah. 所以这也是一个从不同的人类、不同种族，他看这个世界可以不同啊。我们就要注意这些，不然的话，你可能会就是陷入一些的误解啊。所以地图很多时候是想象的啊。There was a famous story about in the age of Napoleon. You remember Napoleon once brought his troops to Italy. Okay? Now, one platoon got lost in the way in the Alps. So everybody got upset because that's during the winter time. If you cannot get off the Alps, you'll be dead. So finally, one soldier, he suddenly said, "I've been mad. I know the way." So everybody followed him, and finally they got out of the Alps. Turn out, the map is what he created. It's a false map. It's a fake map. Doesn't matter. What they need is actually a purpose and a leader to help them find the way. So many times we listen to politicians. They have a few slogans, right? Make America great again. I'll follow that. That's the purpose. Okay, now I want to show you some Chinese maps and Chinese old books. There's a book, those who are into Buddhism, you probably heard of it. If I'm not into Buddhism, maybe you don't, okay? It's written the period of the 魏晋南北朝，叫做《洛阳前兰记》。洛阳前兰记，只做一个简单的测验，多少人听过这本书？《洛阳前兰记》。Very good, yeah, very good. So you must be Buddhist, okay? Yes, yeah. Because this is a very famous book, famous from the Chinese scholar point of view. The writer was a soldier, he's a general, and then he converted into Buddhism. So he has a map here showing the then capital of China, Luoyang, and the location of the temples. You know, Luoyang at that time, there's very many famous temples, like Baimasi, you all heard of that. So for each temple in the book, they have the history of the temple, in what year it was built. Then a certain general, an emperor, made a big donation. And at the very end, you know what? The temple always fell into ruins. After you read a few stories, you begin to appreciate the fundamental Buddhism principle. 成住坏空. Everything will go to dust. The reason this map is very interesting is that it's actually multidimensional. It's not only about space, it's also about time. So Chinese didn't have computer at that time, but it actually is a multidimensional map. Finally, I want to show you the map made in Ming Dynasty. In a lot of these so-called 地方志, the local chronicles, they also show map, and associated with the map, there will be description of the cities, of the population, of the product, and so on and so forth. So in fact, it's an index. It's a spatial index. We don't have Apple computers at that time, okay? But Chinese created this concept of maps. So the reason I show this is that maps can be used in many, many different purposes to illustrate the way, to help you find and not find many things. I think you have to be a little bit faster to go through this. Okay, next thing is icons. You all know icons. Okay, 中文叫图示或英文比较通用 icon， 多半从前就是这个宗教上的一些符号，或者是这个主耶稣基督或者圣母The icons originally carry a religious meaning. But now we all heard of icons, but in a different context. In what context? In our personal computers, in the iPhones, right? Icons become those visual symbols that can be used for us to direct the computer to do certain things. Why? It's easy to use, less cumbersome than a written command, and very much illustrative. There's a famous historian, Arnold Toynbee, a British historian. In his final years, once he gave a lecture in Japan, the people asked him about the future of communication, about human languages. And he made a prediction that an iconic language based upon simplified Chinese could be the universal language for human communications. 就是汤比这个历史学家大家可能都听过他老早去预测这人的语言的发展最后会变成用视觉的语言，他认为会以这个简化的中文作为基础。我们现在看看这电脑用的语言就是一种简化的视觉语言类似中文可是不是完全是中文So the kids these days, they create their own visual language. Some of them, even you and I don't know. Okay, they create new visual language every day as a means of communication. Interestingly, now we begin to see that in some science fiction films, they begin to talk about how human can communicate with the alien. There's a recent movie. Actually, I was discussing this with Angela yesterday. This movie is called Arrival. 2 years ago. If you love science fiction movie, you'll love this one. Although it's not very popular, but I think it's a very great movie. And the way the human communicate with the alien is through a form of circular visual language. You see, the language itself is actually holistic. This is actually one whole sentence, and it's dynamic, independent speech, and circular in time. Very creative. Okay. Relational network. To understand the truth, you cannot just look at statistics. You must look into the relationship among things. A few years ago, I wrote an article about, since I'm from Taiwan, I was talking about Ma Ying-jeou. Many of you know him. He's a past president of Taiwan. And he is a legalist. He thinks everything in terms of legal terms. And very nice guy, honest person, but failed to capture the heart of people. Why? I think that part of the reason is that he doesn't understand 关系学 or theory of relations in Chinese. We always think in terms of 关系. There's a famous sociologist, Fei Xiaotong. Fei Xiaotong, he talked about the 乡土中国, 乡土中介. He analyzed the Chinese society, and there are actually 4 elements. Okay. 生权 means the gentleman, the local gentry. 皇权, the king, emperor. 邦权, the gangsters. Finally, 民权, the people. If you look in the Chinese society, actually the Cantonese society is the same. It's really influenced by this interaction of the four forces. What Mr. Ma tried to do is to impose a legal framework on top of that. But unfortunately, those relations are artificial. They are not real. Not real, I mean, in the Chinese mind. We tend to operate using the relational network. In fact, when you try to understand many phenomena, recently I read an article in New York Times. It is trying to analyze the financial status of simple people, individual people, and using a relational network, which I think is great. A lot of things we can understand using a relational network. Of course, this goes deeper that you can use for those of you who are mathematically inclined. You can use graphs to do that. For those of you who are trying to shoot pictures, don't worry. I can leave this with the institute, with CTU. So actually, Linda, it is your pleasure. You can actually provide a copy of the PowerPoint file to people who are really interested. Okay. Yeah. So this is actually a hypergraph in graph theory, and we can analyze very complex data using hypergraph. And luckily, with parallel computational techniques, we can do it. Another way is to bring patterns, to find out the relationships. And this is at our lab, because I also do research trying to discover visual languages used by human brain. And then I found another interesting recent study of a very famous musician, Sting. Who likes Sting? I do. A lot of people like Sting. Okay. He actually agreed to let a Canadian group of radiologists did brain analysis. Sting was listening to classical music. You know, a lot of jazz musicians, if you ask them what they actually all like classical music. Anyway, he loved classical music, and then the radiologist recorded his brain activities. And the patterns are totally different from you and me. Only a creator, a musician, can exhibit those patterns, those kind of patterns. Very interesting. But I must say this is here in the infancy of the research. How you can analyze the brain patterns, find a relationship to creativity. Very interesting. Okay, finally, to my favorite topic, science fiction. People always ask me, why do you write science fiction? Okay, there could be many answers. But if you look at it from the instrument point of view, you can use science fiction to predict the future. Not really predict, but try to find out what we call dystopia. What would be the future you'd like to avoid? By what? By scenario analysis. So in the realm of computer science and human-computer interface, we call it scenario analysis. We construct different scenarios so we can analyze and try to predict the outcome. In movie making, we make storyboards. As simple as that. Or you can make more elaborate schemes. Now, I just want to show this. This is an ancient film called Forbidden Planet, made in the 1950s. But it's very influential in science fiction movie. And it created a few of the major themes in science fiction, including a friendly robot, including how you interact with superior intelligence, and so on and so forth. So we can use scenario analysis and science fiction, for example, to try to analyze and predict the fight between good and evil, the fight between the David of the day and the Goliath of the day. And the idea of SF also evolved. 这个科学幻想不见得是用 SF 这两个字啊，其实它可以代表不同的含义。So we can call it science fiction, 科学幻想. Actually, there's very little science in science fiction. So a lot of people say, maybe we better call it speculative fantasy. Still SF. 中文讲就是推理玄幻啊。其实现在很多大陆的电影啊，科幻电影，它是玄幻电影啊。Then, as I just mentioned, from information science, computer science point of view, we can talk about scenario formulation, how to formulate different scenarios. So for many of you who are young scientists or young artists, the way you can contribute is to make artistic product, combine scientific principles, and do scenario formulation in addition to science fiction. So in conclusion, what I did today is to start this concept Black Swan and White Elephant, and talk about some of the pitfalls in big data analysis. Then I try to show you that visual languages can be part of the answer, and we discuss some of the aspects, including maps, icons, relations, and scenarios. 所以我现在讲的话呢，就是先从大数据时代讲起啊，然后讲我们应该用人最擅长的部分，做我们人擅长的事，跟机器配合，利用这些工具，像地图啊、图示啊、关系学啊、科幻情节啊，那我们可以对真实有更好的一个理解。So this concludes my talk. I hope you enjoyed it. As Linda, did I fulfill my promise to make it interesting? I hope so. Okay, good. Thank you. I think we will spend maybe 10 minutes Q&A. 我们想就是有10分钟给大家发问，然后我们就进入下一场的活动讨论啊。那你可以问任何问题，只是要问关于我小时候也可以啊。因为今天讲的是等于是一门课的东西，所以太丰富了啊，所以可以。不过any question will be welcome about my novel or about what I just. Yeah. Yes, please.
If I was to summarize your talk, would I be correct in saying that you think big data is a white elephant and hence big data is useless?
I don't want to say it. I just want to say it, yeah.
So have you heard of AlphaGo? Do you know about narrow AI? I mean, it's all based, neural networks and deep learning are based on big data.
Yes.
I mean, are you saying that that's just a joke?
No, all I'm trying to say is that every analysis is based upon certain knowledge base. And that knowledge base can be prejudiced. So whatever conclusion you draw from the knowledge base will be biased in a certain way. Scenario can also be biased as well. Yeah. So maybe I'm not neutral, but I'm not neutral toward all techniques. You have to take every technique, and realize that there is certain danger in that. The reason I seem to be more critical toward the Black Swan is mainly because of the Trump fiasco. This is the first time that so many statisticians missed to predict the outcome of the election, which seems to be obvious.
I probably have too many questions for you. There's a very popular argument for and against AI. Some think that it is the future, the direction that we should go, and some think that we have to be very cautious in proceeding.
Yes.
And then, for example, do you think that we could really be programming something like Isaac Asimov's 3 laws into a computer, into an AI to safeguard that it won't turn against humanity?
Yeah.
One question.
Well, in fact, I share the view of Hawkins, this recently deceased physicist. You know, he wrote this small book about the 10 questions answered that talk about AI, and indeed, there's always this inherent danger that the smart machines will outsmart us. Yeah. But the more real danger is that he also predicted that. 我就讲这个霍金啊，就是那位物理学家，最近过世的啊，他有本小说，讲那个就是10个大家常常会有的问题啊，那个小说呢，很多杂志报上都有介绍，可以拿来看一看。And Hawkins, one of the main fears that soon we are going to have Superman. These Supermen actually could be the most rich people among us, like Trump, who will use many scientific techniques, DNA alteration and all that, to make himself or his descendants better, stronger, more powerful. Since they control the money, they control the political machines, they control human race. So we are going to be back into a two-class society. Superhuman and us. That's the real danger. Actually, I share very much his view. 就是这个霍金讲，就是说将来的超人又会出现啊。那这个超人不是像从前是那个什么这个而是这个非常有可能的，因为这个 DNA 工程啊什么都可以让这个最有钱的人他掌握了这些 technology， 他可以把他跟他的后代。比如说，他可能就可以活800岁，我们只能活120岁。120岁所有人都可以活到，800岁的话就只有super race。That's the real danger, and also we are faced with the period of the retreat of democracy. It happened in America, happened in Great Britain, happened in France, Germany, not to mention other countries. That's a real danger. So we're going to spend all our remaining of our life fighting those things. Think about your children, your grandchildren. What kind of world would they live in? So we have to fight. We have to fight those tendencies. Although it's going to be hard.
Another question which is related to science fiction, as a professor in science and a science fiction writer. Let's not talk about your books, but about, do you read other science fiction writers? Which are the science fiction writers that you enjoy? Do you enjoy hard science fiction or speculative science fiction, or science fiction is like Kim Stanley Robinson, who talks about the future, which is based, more to the left, about climate change? What are your views on what science fiction do you enjoy?
It's very broad, but the short answer is that I like all kinds of science fiction. Okay, of course, I appreciate more the classic ones. Always read Asimov. It still keep me the kick. And Harrison, I still like his. But there are some new science fiction, especially by female writers, are very good. And many of them, of course, are socially oriented, issue oriented. You may even call them political science fiction. Yeah. Those, good fiction is good fiction. You know what is a good story, what is not a good story. And I enjoy the good story. And also, of course, I enjoy science fiction movies and films and experimental films. Yeah. Many of you are in media arts, so you all know the difficulty of even making a 3-minute film, right? Costs a lot, both in your own time and resources. But there's a channel, at least where I live, they play this, they call it stardust, dust, 星辰. These are all very short science fiction films made by people like you. Some of them very good. If I may, I will just introduce one story to you. It's so good. Okay. Again, it's about time travel. Time travel, people talk about it all the time. What's new? But this time is very interesting. There's a beautiful girl sitting in a restaurant, and there's this young man. He just keep on bothering her. She said, "Why are you always trying to follow me everywhere?" And not only that, and he's very rude. He will say, "Did you forget your handbag? Don't forget to pay the bill." Why you say those questions? Finally, the young man say, "I'm from the future." "Okay, so you could come back just to visit me?" The girl says. "Okay. Yes, because I'm your caretaker. You will be 80 years old, living in an old people's house. I'm the young man who take care of you." It's very interesting, right? When you think about love story, you always think about a beautiful young man, beautiful girl. This is about a young man who really cared for an old woman so much that he decided to visit her in the past. Very interesting thing. I never seen a time travel story like this. So interesting. And the girl, of course, refused. "Oh, I'm not going to date with you. Especially say I'm an old woman living alone. I'm not like that." But finally, she accepted. "Okay, let's just date to see whether we can change the future." Story ends there. 3-minute story. I like it very much. I think this director has great potential. It's this kind of jewelry, this kind of gem that keep us going. So if you ask me what kind I like, all kinds. Sorry, we don't have time to go deeper. One last question, then we should switch to next panel. Yes, please.
Yeah, so at the moment, humans dictate what is valuable and ask the machine to look for the information or the data, right?
Yeah.
So when do you think the machine can define what is valuable to them, and what do you think that will be?
Yeah, that's when we have to watch out, because now we can use so-called example-based programming. We present examples what we think are valuable to the computer, and they learn, and they can find the valuable things for us.
Yeah.
But if we open this up and let the computer try to evaluate and find what's valuable, we may be very surprised about the answer.
So when do you think that will happen, and what do you think that will be?
I think we will not allow this to happen. Yeah.
No, the thing
Because
is-
it's too dangerous to us.
Yeah, but it's happening. It seems like
Algorithm is going to replace our jobs and
Yeah.
opportunities, right?
Right.
So if we wanted to equip ourselves for the futures, then we need to ask ourselves what we will be valuable for the machines. Then we start preparing for that. So if we know what is valuable for the machine,
Well, just give you an example. Where I live, we are replacing all the manual toll collectors by machines, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So, but sometimes I wonder, those guys will become jobless and hit employment rule, and we have no way to get rid of them. Okay, why not let them keep their job? Which means you kill the robot. Eventually, our choice is: do we kill ourselves or kill the robot? What's your answer?
to me it seems like it's inevitable that machine will replace us at some point
We
because
make it inevitable. We make many things inevitable. Yeah, because if you let that happen, then sooner or later they replace us completely.
yeah, it seems to be happening that way.
So we have to discuss to find ways to limit their power.
I think it's
Unless you prefer that or someone actually believe the evolution, the end is to create smart machines to replace us completely. Otherwise, where do we draw the line?
I mean, when you have the industrial revolutions, right? People would
change from using horses to use automobiles, right? It seems to be inevitable as well, and then I don't think you can change that if that's happening. So
that's a very good analogy because there we are replacing physical power by like horsepower by machine power. Now we are replacing brain power. When we have the first industrial revolution, we retain something valuable, right? We have brain. Machines don't have brain.
yeah.
Now if you are replacing brain, what next? Maybe the answer is that we have soul. They don't have soul, right?
Well, exactly, that's my question. So what would be...
So then the debate or the actual battle will be on religious or philosophical ground.
Yeah, it seems
Yeah.
to me they have to answer these philosophical questions now. When you
Yeah.
have the driverless car,
Yeah,
then the car needs to design
I know.
where they go.
Yeah.
Because Google needs to think about the trolley problems now, right?
Yeah. So I think we have to take it offline because this is going
Yeah,
to be
sure.
endless discussion. One last question, then we should switch to the next activity. Yes, please.
What do you think about singularity?
I think I know you. Hello. Yeah.